From students to parents to everyone working within the field of education, the last 10 months have been a complete whirlwind. Last March, the rapid onset of the pandemic upended life, forcing thousands of school districts to shut their doors and move classes online. With this sudden shift, many teachers scrambled to create new curriculums, parents made makeshift learning spaces, and millions of children and teens logged onto laptops, tablets, and iPads to connect to class. There's no doubt that educators relied more on technology in 2020 than any year previously. Taylor Good is a third-grade teacher at Manheim Township School District in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania. His elementary school does a hybrid learning model where each student can decide whether they prefer to be in person or online.
So at my building, Neff Elementary in third grade, we had 20-some students want to go online. And so we were able to choose. The three of us, the other teachers and myself, talked and came up with that I would teach the online class, they would teach in person. And we kind of sat down with our administrators and came up with that game plan that would work best for our students to have a fully online class.
Good says that the abrupt transition to online classes was helped by the fact that students were already somewhat familiar with e-learning systems since the school had purchased iPads a few years back. So when the district shut down for 2 weeks in March to assess the situation, teachers used this time to pull together an online infrastructure. This meant everything from becoming familiar with Zoom to Schoolology, an e-learning platform that's easier for younger kids to use. One huge upside to more tech in academia? The instant connectivity that allows for the sharing of information across districts.
That allowed us to collaborate across grade level bands, across elementary schools, and even collaborate with people outside of our state when it was online, something you couldn't do if you were using paper and pencil or keeping it just within your walls. So that's an extreme benefit of technology. And one big thing, at least for elementary students, and I would probably say for any student, maybe any person, is that choice is valuable. And when they have the opportunity to choose how they want to complete the activity, choose what they want to complete, it allows them to take ownership of what they're learning and then really dive into the benefits of learning. They start to discover that. And so we try to put a lot of our menus online. So for our English language arts block, we have online menus that go with our story where students sometimes can choose what they want to do. It also builds a portfolio of their learning, even if it's as simple as doing the work offline and taking pictures of it and building that portfolio.
It's important to note that the e-learning experience varies across the country. Many students and parents started out feeling lost for months as they tried to navigate the new normal.
When you think about during the spring, some of the things that stressed kids out the most, stressed parents out the most, were just trying to get answers to some simple questions. So when you think about a learning management system and what it does, you can think about it in kind of these simple questions that we answer. We answer the question of what am I supposed to do? When is it due? How did I do? So that ability for teachers to provide feedback. It also provides support for students. So when students are saying, can you help me? Just to be able to stay connected with the student.
That's Trenton Goebel, the Vice President of K-12 Product Strategy at the educational tech company Instructure. Previously, he was a teacher for 5 years and a principal for 12 years. He's also the author of the book Reclaiming the Classroom: How America's Teachers Lost Control of Education and How They Can Get It Back. Goebel highlights that across the country, many schools have struggled to provide students with up-to-date tech.
We saw that, especially in the spring, as schools were going from a face-to-face environment to a remote learning environment, we saw that issue of student access to not only the internet, but access to devices as being a huge issue. I've, in my career, had the opportunity to travel all over this country, and I think people are probably more aware of some of the inequities that exist in our system now, maybe than they were even before the pandemic. As we had CARES Act and districts kind of found the funding and were really invested in finding ways to make sure that students had access to the internet, that they had access to a device, a lot of people would say that's great, that's equity, but it's really not. We don't really reach equity until we make sure that students not only have access to a device or to the internet, but they actually have access to learning.
Research has shown that learning is not one size fits all. Some students may retain information best through socialization and experiential exercises, while others are solitary visual learners. Everyone learns differently, and what works for one person may not work for another. Who knows? The new reality may mean some students permanently learning online because that's where they excel.
We may also come to the conclusion that it is very possible to get a fantastic education in some of the ways that we're doing it now. And if that's the case, then how can we take that and move forward with it and provide it as an option and another way to differentiate how a child learns?
The internet can also be a place where teachers learn best. During the pandemic, social media platforms like Facebook have been a crucial resource to finding new ideas and inspiration from others.
When we think about professional development for teachers, a lot of it has been conferences over the years. Some of the best professional development I get is just random Facebook groups. There's a Bitmoji Facebook group I follow, and I can't tell you the amount of online ideas for this online learning that this group shares and shares out. Those are a dime a dozen. You can find those everywhere now. So really, teachers are pulling together, and they've done it in the past, but technology allows them to do that now, is to collaborate all around the world. And it's almost that working smarter, not harder idea. People have great ideas, so can you share them with each other to benefit the students, which is the ultimate goal.
Good says the lack of socialization amongst kids during the pandemic does pose a challenge. He often splits kids into smaller online groups where it's easier to talk.
We're trying everything we can to get them into breakout rooms on Zoom, to get them into collaborating on different apps and Google Slides in order to give them that social aspect. But you can see how there might be a deficiency in that too. They'll make sure they ramp up. Their guidance counselors will be ready when they come back. They'll be able to provide those, and I know they are now. They can jump on Zoom and provide those supports as well. Education has only ever had one thing in mind, at least from my viewpoint, from the ground level, and that's how can we take care of our students and make sure they learn. And so if they do come back with these deficiencies, I know that educators will be ready to meet them head on and get them back to where they need to get to.
There are a number of factors, from the home environment to learning styles, that feed into students struggling online. It's a challenging time, and Goebel says he sees many educators factoring in these unforeseen circumstances.
I think there are students who are probably doing fine, and I think there are a whole lot of students who are struggling in this environment. And I see teachers working so hard every day, adjusting their teaching practices to try and become more engaging for students or to try to connect with students in more meaningful ways. But I think as we work moving forward, that need for us to really engage in a meaningful kind of assessment of not only how students are doing, but even an assessment of how teachers are doing coming back. This whole process, I think, has taken a toll on everybody. I think the teachers have worked so hard, have given so much.
When asked about burnout this past year, Good says that it can be tough sometimes to call it a day when there's still so much work to be done.
The burnout, I feel, in education comes from this deep down desire to make sure that every student not only meets the goals you need them to meet, but exceeds them. And the amount of time it takes to make sure that that happens, where that every child's education is differentiated the best to your ability, can lead you to working 15, 20 hours a day. I know it sounds crazy, but it's a drive. It's an internal drive. And if that gets to you because you're not stepping away and also doing things in your life with your family, that's where that burnout can come from. If you are collaborating with your colleagues and working together, which is so crucial at this time, to make sure everybody's working together, then that allows you to stay more positive.
Over the last 10 months, technology has connected not only teachers and students, but people staying at home for months on end. The evolving role of technology in education can not only help more students succeed in the classroom, but develop the practical skills needed in the tech era. To find out more about this topic and both of our guests, Taylor Good and Trenton Goebel, visit viewpointsradio.org. You can check out Goebel's book, Reclaiming the Classroom, available now. This segment was written and produced by Amira Zaveri. I'm Gary Price.
Did you know 1 in 4 small businesses will close due to cash flow difficulties or lack of access to capital? But they don't have to. According to Lauren Schifrin of Revolution Capital, the country's leading provider of factoring and cash flow financing, there's a safe and easy way to access your capital immediately without hurting your bottom line.
It's called factoring. We buy your invoices and pay you same day. That provides you with the immediate liquidity and access to the capital you need to grow your business. Because now more than ever, companies should have a finance partner that's on their side.
Revolution Capital provides flexible funding options to small to medium-sized businesses that would like immediate access to capital, and they respect your business relationships to help you succeed and grow. Find out more at revinc.com. That's REVINC.com.
And that's Viewpoints for this week. Viewpoints is a production of MediaTrax Communications. Follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram to learn more about upcoming shows and find a library of past programs on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, and Spotify. Plus, you'll always find previous segments and more information about our guests at viewpointsradio.org. Join us again next week for another edition of Viewpoints.
Coming up on Viewpoints.
We never know what the stock market is going to do, but on average, you can safely assume it's usually going to give a 6 or 7% return.
How to make your money work for you rather than the other way around. Then,
the heat waves that we've seen in California, they have been made more intense and more likely because of climate change.
Uncovering the drivers of extreme weather events. I'm Marty Peterson.
and I'm Gary Price. These stories in depth on your public affairs magazine, Viewpoints.